We move on to the 2011 season, where I'm now signed with Toro Rosso, but after a few problems in pre-season testing with spinning and damaging the car, I actually got removed from Toro Rosso, and I actually didn't have a drive for the season, and actually that was a bit of a problem, which wasn't ideal, but thankfully we actually managed to get picked up by Force India, so we are actually going to be continuing the season with Force India for round 1 onwards. First qualifying session of the season actually went really well and we managed to actually come across the line and set an incredible lap time, which put us in an incredible P6 position on the starting grid. So yeah, I'll take that, and I was very happy with that, not gonna lie. For the race, I actually had a pretty decent race actually. We got away very nicely off the line and actually really challenged both the Ferraris here and towards turn 1, but they managed to just hold on, but I managed to hold position as well from the McLaren just behind me attacking me, but luckily I get a tiny bit of slipstream, try and use a bit of my curves as well down here, and the Mercedes actually gets past me and the McLaren nearly gets past me here, but after quite an early safety car I decided to make an early stop and go onto the harder compound of tyre and actually try and go to the end on this tyre now, which actually helps me out very nicely as I can work my way up the grid under the safety car conditions and actually make it up to a really solid P3 up until sadly I try and move on the Sauber here for P2 and make a bit of contact, which ends us both in the gravel and out of the race sadly. So at Malaysia we struggled quite a bit actually, so here's the end of my first hot lap. We actually only went P18 there, which was pretty disappointing compared to what we could have got and what we got at Australia. But at the end of qualifying we decided to go out again for another hot lap, and thankfully we managed to make a big improvement, which was massively needed, as we straight line it towards the line for the final time and we go P13. We actually lost a couple of positions after other people set their lap times, so we actually moved down to P15. But I'll take P15 as it is now lights out and away we go here at Malaysia. We get a fairly decent start. We're immediately trying to go on the attack of a few cars here. We get terrible starts as we're trying down the inside, which is going to be very risky to say the least, but we're going for it. We go down to second gear, go through turn 1, we're battling with Nico Rosberg there a bit as he goes down the inside of me once again, and it looks like he's kept his position very nicely there, so we'll just have to hold on. And with this race we basically just stayed in held position and just kept pushing on trying to catch. We didn't really make any overtakes, we kind of just held on and just had a tiny bit of a battle with defending. But as we come around the final corner then, Alonso sets the fast lap of the race and wins the race, and we are going to come home in a fairly decent P10, so some points picked up. I'll take that any day of the week. So after a pretty disappointing qualifying in China, we start near the back of the grid this time. We get a terrible start off the line there, which was not great at all, as Suttle jumps us there, so now we're going to have to try and carry on and push on and try and make the time that we lost back as we go in towards turn 1, getting all over the back of Suttle here, maybe try and think about making a move, but it looks like he just keeps ahead as we try and go down the inside now around the outside, but he just keeps ahead. Now we are behind him just down the back straight, going around the outside into the hairpin section, and it looks like he's actually sped up a bit there somehow, got very good exit and jumped the Lotus just ahead of us, and now we're going to try and go around the outside of the Lotus, but he looks like he just holds on, so kind of helped my teammate there really to push himself up a bit forward, but sadly it ended in catastrophe as we make the move on the lowest car, lose the back end through final corner, and that is our race completely over sadly. In Turkey, not much really happened. We just qualified near the back once again. We helped our teammate out and compromised our own qualifying session really, so that explains why. And in the race we had a pretty decent start. We managed to get away nicely off the line and try and have a bit of a battle up the grid here. Just send it down in the middle of a couple cars here, and it's, well, somehow not chaotic in turn 1. I don't know how, because a lot of people sent it there, but everyone managed to survive somehow. But yeah, we just managed to battle on a little bit, try and challenge the Sauber just ahead of us here of Perez as we try and go around the outside of him very nicely here, and now down the inside. We seem to have made the move stick very nicely on him, but then we just held position really and just stayed around about 15th place sadly. So the next track was Spain, and I noticed that it was going to be raining in the race, so I decided to go for a full wet setup here, and yeah, decided to see how it would go, change the engine mixtures just a little bit for qualifying. Obviously I'll be changing out when I'm on track, just put less fuel in the car, but yeah, qualifying went very well actually, very well. We are actually about to finish our final hot lap here now, coming around the final corner. And on a wet setup, I didn't expect much in the dry for qualifying, but somehow we managed to go P3 and only 2 tenths off pole position, which is absolutely insane to say the least, which I did not expect at all. But I will definitely take that sort of result in the dry, so yeah. So now is the race, starting P3, we're on a full wet setup in the rain. Now I am pretty decent in the rain, so I was hoping for a good result here, and I decided to go full send off the start finish line here. I managed to go straight up to it using all my curves here, and actually jumped both the Red Bull and the Ferrari there, run down towards turn 1, and made it up to P1 incredibly somehow. I have no clue how I managed to get such a good start, but the wet setup probably did help a lot. Now I just need to just push on and defend for my life to try and get my first win in this career mode series. So we're just going to push on and defend the best we can as we just take a bit of a wet line there, just take it very nicely though. Nevertheless, as you can see, they're all in my mirrors there, just battling me like I don't know what, so we just have to try and defend as best as I can coming through the final chicane once again, and we just have to watch out really, because we don't have to pit if we don't want to, but I am going to, because I feel like these tyres will not go to the end. So even the pit stop I was a little bit worried, but the team did an absolutely incredible job there, changed it over very nicely, didn't get blocked up at all, and managed to get out very nicely once again and take the lead of the race once again once everyone else pitted. And now we cut to the final lap where we're just coming around, and I'm thinking, damn, I could actually win this. We could actually win this as long as we just keep on track. We've got Alonso all over our tail just behind us, but we come through the final chicane for the final time. Just one more corner now for me to get my first victory here in the career mode series, and we take the win at Spain.
That's a fantastic drive, well above expectations. Congratulations.
Now we head in to one of the biggest motorsport events of the year, the Monaco F1 Grand Prix, and I was really hoping to do well in this one because I really enjoy Monaco and I'm pretty decent at the track, so where everyone else struggles a little bit, I seem to do pretty decently. So I was kind of hoping that I'd have a good result here, and it was going to be wet again in the race, so maybe we could have a chance, who knows. So in qualifying, we actually had an incredible hot lap here. I'm going to leave the whole lap in as we fly through turn 1 very nicely there, coming towards the end of qualifying, as we run up the hill then towards Casino section, where we take it very nicely here with very high speed, somehow managing to nail this lap so far very nicely. And it's looking like we could have a good chance here as we get a purple first sector here, as we just go a tiny bit wide there, which isn't ideal, as we fly down towards the hairpin section. A very difficult corner to nail, but we've nailed that very nicely. Run down here, it looks like we're going to have a bit of traffic here with the salvager ahead of us. Hopefully we can get past him without him affecting our lap time as we go through the tunnel now. We're getting a tiny bit of slipstream, not too much though, and we're just going to send it down inside. He backs off a bit, so we managed to still take it with pretty good speed there. We had to go a little bit offline, but it shouldn't have lost us too much time as we fly through the next part then, which is the swim pool section, through there very nicely, down towards this very quick chicane. We've really got to watch out that you don't hit the barrier on the entrance, and we just avoided it very nicely. Through towards the final 2 corners then, the final corner now, and we've nailed that very nicely, flipped the DRS open, and that lap actually takes us into provisional pole, which is absolutely insane to say the least, and hopefully we can maybe keep that pole position. We've still got a bit of time for people to finish their lap, but at the moment it's looking very good and a very quick lap time for us, and I cannot believe I managed to just pull that off in a Force India. So I really wanted to try and win this one because Monaco is one of my most favourite tracks on the calendar, plus it's one of the Triple Crowns, so winning this would be incredible to say the least. As we headed into turn 1, took it very nicely, kept the lead very nicely. Unlike in Spain, it's going to be a bit more tricky because, well, 1, it's Monaco in the wet, and 2, I haven't actually got a wet setup. I got a bit of a neutral setup because I wanted to try and have a good result in qualifying and the race, so it was going to be a bit difficult, but nevertheless it looks like by our start we took it very nicely there. And I actually made a bit of a mistake here where I thought, you know what, maybe it's getting a little too wet, so I decided to dive into the pits and go onto the full wets and see if I could try and pull a bit of a gamble and maybe it will pay off. This would be incredible if it does. So as we pull away out of the pit box then on full wets now we need to push to the absolute limit and hope that this is going to pay off. And as you can see, we've caught these guys down very quickly here. Everyone has to make a stop anyway, and I've just decided to go for the full wets. I send it down instead of 2 cars there, which was the Sauber and the Toro Rosso. Made it stick very nicely. As you can see, I think they're struggling a lot more. I managed to pick a lot later there compared to them, so I think it is time for full wets here, as we are catching everyone here. Just send it down the inside of the Red Bull there, and we've made the move stick on him very nicely. Now as we head through final corner, we're going to chase down the next guys just ahead of us, see if we can pull a move on them as we send it down inside of the Lotus now and make a move stick on him very nicely. This incredible pace we have here with these wets, so it's looking like people might try and dive into the pits for wets as well after seeing my pace, but I'm not too sure. It was all going good up until we got to midway through the race, and I was trying to catch down these 2 guys up ahead, which was Nico Rosberg and the Mercedes, I'm pretty sure, and we were just trying to battle him as best as possible, trying to catch up. Obviously he's still on the inters and the guy ahead of him is still on the inters too, so they are struggling a lot compared to us, and we're just managing to make these full wets work very nicely up until we come out of the bridge section here and we send it down the inside of Rosberg here, make a move stick on him very nicely, and then out of the exit of the chicane we hit the barrier here and completely destroy our suspension, and that is race over for us, sadly. So next was Canada, and after a gearbox change because of the crash in Monaco, I actually had to start last on the grid, so we just had to try and battle our way up as best as possible. As you can see, got on the grass a bit there through turn 1 and just managed to avoid contact with some of the HRTs and Caterhams as we get a good exit out of there. Absolutely send it down the inside of the HRT and the Caterham and made the move stick on the HRT. Not quite as he bounced back, but we managed to stick it around the outside there. Now we're going to try and get on the back of the Caterham. Should we send it around the outside? We go for it around the outside of the Caterham. He bows back once again, but we get a very good exit out of there and make the move stick very nicely on the Caterham. Next is the Marussia. Should we try and send it around the outside? We outbrake ourselves massively, go over the grass, and yeah, that's going to be 2 positions lost at least because of the Caterham as well. But we'll try and push on and nevertheless try and go back around the outside of the Caterham and the Marussia there and make the move stick on both of them very nicely. So yeah, Canada was just basically just about chilling and trying to make our way as high up the grid as possible, but we come around the final 2 corners now, down the start finish straight to finish in a pretty decent P13. From last, I'll take that. So in Valencia, we actually started near the back of the grid once again after pretty terrible qualifying, but after an amazing start off the line here, we actually managed to just push our way a little bit in towards the points, and we actually had to really watch out here because I didn't really know Valencia too well, and it was very difficult to try and find a space to get around people here. But as you can see, we're just battling our way through, really, just trying to make positions as best as possible as we go back down the inside of the Toro Rosso there very nicely. Next is the Sauber, but nevertheless we managed to battle our way into the points and actually get a pretty decent move here, as you see on the Lotus, just battling him here as we get very good slipstream. We're going to flip open the DRS, use some of our curves down the straight here, just really get massive speed, and as we send it around the outside, made the move stick before we even got to the next corner very nicely there. That's really the only move that I got throughout the race other than the start. So yeah, I'll take that move though at Valencia with a track that I'm not too familiar with. But nevertheless, we battled on and just had to defend the rest of the race because that Lotus kind of just stayed on our tail the rest of the race, and we just had to keep pushing. We tried to catch everyone else ahead, but we just struggled mainly with just following. But nevertheless, Fernando Alonso won the Grand Prix at Valencia, and we're going to come around the final corner for the final time and take a fairly decent P8 position from P70 on the grid. So in qualifying in Britain, I had a massive crash here as I just lost the back end on the grass there, which was not great. And in the race, it went even worse as we try and make a move on Maldonado here, and we just get turned in on, and that's us out of the Grand Prix straight away, sadly. So I really wanted to make up some more points in Germany after making some stupid mistakes in Britain at my home Grand Prix. So I actually qualified P12 and actually worked my way up into the points nicely and battled with a few of the guys around me, like the Ferrari and the Toro Rosso, and we sent it around the outside into the final chicane there very nicely of the Toro Rosso and made it up into P9. And then from there on we just defended very nicely and just held on to P9, and then as we cut to the final lap of the race, we come around the final corner where Sebastian Vettel has won the race, his home Grand Prix, and we come home in a solid P9 position. So in Hungary, it was actually a wet race once again, and I decided to actually gamble for full wets whilst everyone else went for inters, as I felt like it worked in Monaco, so let's try it in Hungary. It looks quite light rain, but I thought, you know what, maybe it might work and it might get heavier and run off the line, and we've got a very good start here, so maybe the full wets was a good decision as we just make a tiny bit of contact there with the Lotus in towards turn 1 and with the Red Bull, but we just go right down the middle of them and make them stick very nicely up to P3 there, so a very good start and I couldn't believe it. So maybe the full wets are working. As you see, we just got a bit of spray there and just went a bit deep, but luckily managed to just hold on and send it back down the inside of the Renault very nicely there. And now we just have to keep up with these two and maybe battle them a bit and maybe win the race, who knows if it gets worse, until we get about midway to the race and we're chased down Hamilton here, and then we come through the final corner and very stupidly hit the barrier for the pit lane, and that's my race over and another race completely ruined by my own stupidity. So next was Belgium, and obviously last season in the HRT we got an impressive P1 in Q1, so I want to try and replicate that again and try and have a good result here. Obviously in the race it didn't go too good, so we need to try and do better this year. Obviously here, as you can see, it's starting to rain at the end of my hot lap, and that makes me have to lift off massively and take it a lot easier into the final chicane, because obviously it's dry tyres on a damp track, which never works out well. So yeah, I really struggled to get a really competitive lap time in, and sadly it only put me in P18 for the race, which isn't great, but I guess I'll just have to take it. So on to the race then, where it's 5 red lights and it is lights out, and away we go here for the Belgian Grand Prix. We've got a fairly easy start off the line, and we're going to try and challenge around the outside, try and break super late, and hope everyone just collide with each other down the inside there. It looks like they have, and I've managed to pull it off very nicely around the outside. And next is my teammate, so we'll try and get past him just before Rouge. But sadly he gets back past me a bit later on in the race, and these two up ahead are battling very aggressively and give each other damage there, so I'm going to send it down the inside of both of them and take advantage of that and make a move stick very nicely. So next is my teammate Adrian Suttle. So it's going to be quite intense between us because we have found out that they are looking to replace one of us for Paul de Resta next season. So hopefully it won't be me that's getting replaced, so I need to show that I can be the #1 driver and I can achieve better results. So I'm going to try and get past him and outperform him in the next few rounds. So we'll try and get a bit of slipstream here through a Rouge. We're really going to have to watch out though, because it is starting to rain in the race here, and we really don't want to slip off the track and maybe cause an accident and crash, as we send it down the inside and have incredible slipstream and DRS and make a move stick very nicely on Suttle, and we manage to hold position there and come home in P11. In Italy, it was mainly just me trying to defend. After qualifying P10, we managed to make our way up to P7 very nicely and just held on to there from there on, and managed to just come home in a fairly decent P7 points per position. Sebastian Vettel won the Italian Grand Prix, but we will come home in P7 and take some more points for the table. Singapore was probably the worst weekend of the season. In qualifying we crashed through the Singapore sling, and again through Singapore sling in the race we crashed into Maldonado and completely destroyed our race and his race. So yeah, terrible weekend. In Japan, we took a grid penalty as we changed the gearbox as we damaged it in the last race in Singapore after that massive crash. We made our way nicely up the grid a bit and had some very decent battles and managed to get up to points per position until I was battling with my teammate, tried to make a move on him through turn 1, which just was not working. We completely take each other out and absolutely collide with each other and ruined both our races. So in Korea it was a bit of a comeback drive because we had 2 bad races in a row, which was not great, so we really need to try and do better. Obviously last season I crashed through this final corner right here in Korea, so I really need to avoid that. Luckily we did avoid it and managed to finish a lap. It wasn't too great, not gonna lie, which was a tiny bit disappointing, but we still pushed on anyway to try and get a bit of a better lap in, and we managed to get into the points with it. And in the race, really we were just defending because we really struggled with the tyre wear, and until this Lotus just got past us, as you saw there, so we just had to try and defend on from there, and we managed to come home in some pretty decent points per position, so I'll take that. In India, it was actually raining in the qualifying session, so I wanted to try and do a bit better than usual because our car handles very nicely in the wet, as we have seen in Spain and Monaco. So I wanted to try and just go all out and see what would happen. I actually gambled for the full wet as well as others gambled for inters, thinking that maybe I could pull off a pretty decent strategy here as we head in towards turn 2. This track's mainly about high speed corners and straights, because you'll see here we just got a massive straight here where I'm just using as much of my curves as possible down the straight, and also in the middle sectors quite high speed corners. I'm struggled quite a bit through the high speed corners. Usually we're pretty decent on low speed corner tracks like Monaco for example. That's why we did so well at Monaco. But yeah, the middle sector as we're coming towards it now is where we kind of struggle a little bit, because obviously it's the high speed corners coming up where we just go offline just a little bit here through this next corner, and we just go on the grass a tiny bit, which has lost us a bit of time there, so we really need to try and make it up and avoid that issue again as we flying through here coming towards the grandstand section. Then we really need to watch out and just try and take the race on as best as possible, but try and find the line with the most grip, because obviously in the dry it's one thing, but in the wet it's another, as we go massive off wide again. Luckily staying validated though. As we come through the next section, it's very difficult to find out where you're going on this track, especially when it's a new track on the calendar, as Hamilton actually goes fastest there as we come around the final few corners coming up to the final corner of the lap then. Can we try and get in a pretty decent lap as we come around the final corner, get a very good exit, keep it straight to the line now, and that puts me pretty down the grid sadly, so we really need to try again really. We did have another attempt right at the end of qualifying, and this time I gambled for the inters, and as you can see I just don't think it worked because it just got a little bit heavier compared to my first lap throughout the session, so that wasn't great, not gonna lie. But we tried again, and sadly it was only P18 though, which is not great, but I guess it'll do. In the race there was quite a bit of carnage, and our car just felt really good as we managed to make quite a few good moves on top teams here, going around the slower speed corners. I said I really struggled with this track, but in the dry it actually felt amazing, and I managed to actually make some incredible moves, like I said, on the front running teams, and mixed with that with a bit of a chaotic race, we actually managed to battle our way up into a podium position somehow, which was absolutely incredible to say the least. And we managed to actually just keep pushing on, battled with Hamilton and the Red Bull of Vettel just ahead, and we actually managed to come around the final sector on the final lap and hold on to P3 for the whole race, which was absolutely insane from P19 on the grid as we come around the final corner and take another amazing podium of the season. What a race that was. In Abu Dhabi, we had a pretty terrible qualifying sadly, just because we didn't actually manage to get out of the garage in time due to a component change, which wasn't ideal to say the least. But we managed to battle our way nicely up the grid and with the back marker teams and just fight our way nicely through the grid, especially on lap 1. Everyone just seemed to get the wrong line, and we managed to just go around a few people, which was incredible to say the least. Next we were on the back of Maldonado's. We just managed to go around the outside of him very nicely into the chicane. Nearly tried to move on Rosberg there, but just backed out of it. I then decided to send it down the inside of Rosberg into the hairpin, have a tiny bit of contact there, but managed to get a really good exit out of the hairpin and make a move stick on him. We managed to hold on very nicely and make our way up to P11 in this race, which was absolutely insane from dead last on the grid as we come around the final corner for another amazing result. Sadly not points, but P11 is good enough. So this was it then, the 2011 season finale at Brazil. In qualifying, we actually managed to go nearly first out on track, one of the first out on track, and actually took provisional pole from Alguersuari, which was pretty decent to say the least. Obviously it didn't stay there due to the fact that we're only a midfield team, but we managed to get that early lap in, and to hold provisional pole was pretty nice for a moment. We managed to qualify P10, which was pretty decent, but now it was the race. We really need to try and get some more points, just try and go all out really in the season finale. It's the last time we'll be using this car, so we will head out in Brazil then for the final time as we get a very good start off the line, use some curves, flip up to Rich immediately, send it down the inside, try and make a couple positions. Rosberg holds position there as we try and go around the outside of him, just make a slight bit of contact with the Lotus there and try and go around the outside of the Red Bull there, which was very nice, and down the inside of the Lotus after making a slight contact of him. I made some incredible moves there as I try and send it down the inside of Felipe Massa as well, who tries to hold on, and I do a bit of a dirty move there as I actually tap him just a tiny bit and he goes a little bit wide, but nevertheless the stewards found that it was completely legal there, and we managed to get a very good result and hold up to P4 after some incredible battles and a bit of a chaotic race once again. But nevertheless we had to stay on track to get this result as we come around the final corner. You can see them there, they started chasing me down at the end on the final stint, but I managed to just use all I had, all my pace I had, and I managed to come home in an amazing P4 position from 10th on the grid. Alonso wins the final race, but we come home in P4.
On behalf of the team, I'd like to thank you for a great season. This result will motivate everyone over the winter.
So I can now announce that I am staying with Force India for a further 2 more seasons, so the 2012 season and the 2013 season, due to a contract extension. After my amazing results this past season, Force India decided to keep me on and dump Adrian Sittle, sadly, but also take on another Brit of Paul de Resta. So yeah, the 2012 season will be interesting to say the least.